So this is version 7.5. I finally managed to do a build where I haven't had a problem with a texture. One texture in particular is giving me problems. When I was inspecting the bricks, there was a strange distorted wavy effect coming from the PBR texture. So I'd had a look in the texture folder and it's a slightly different source that I've used, but it's not from the CO Textures website, and it's only half the resolution of all of my other textures. So this one is giving me problems in one area, but I've replaced it now. I'm going to go around the airport and just show you what changes I've made and upgrades and updates. I've done quite a bit over the past week. So moving over to Pier 1. Before I do that, I'm going to just explain the taxiway markings are now changed. They're softer and slightly see-through and a little bit of a paint speckled texture. So they're looking much better in bright sunlight. So almost every single taxiway marking with the arrow is now changed. Just some of the more complicated ones like this, I have to redesign it because I haven't saved all these. They're quite complicated, just take a lot of time to remake, so I'm not going to do them at the moment. So it's just the stand number markings. Every single one on the airport has been changed, so it's looking much better. Okay, starting off at Pier 1. Not done a lot to this, but I have resized the barriers because they were ridiculously big. They were like bigger than a man. And also these barriers around the masts, they've been resized, so a little bit more realistic to the actual size. So the chocks and cones and the GPU is reasonably to scale, although it's still a bit big. So all this section is done. I'm just going around double checking the textures are not giving me a problem. That's all good. Pier 2, all the fascia is now a normal map, corrugated map. So it gives the impression of a 3D structure, but it's actually not. So that saved a lot of mesh. I've removed all the mesh. I've done some PBR textured roof material on all these HSBC mods. This is now a simple rectangle with just texture. And now that I've learnt Blender, I've created edge loops and new faces and just 1, 2, 3 different types of texture. And that's also corrugated, but it doesn't show up very well. It does there in the sun. So that's a very efficient way of modelling. I've yet to do this area. This is the old model with the 3D modelled fascia. It does look better close up, but you get aliasing. You almost see it there. It's like a flickering effect when you're far away. There. But on this material, the normal corrugated map, it looks better against the sun, but you don't get any flickering at all from a distance. So that's a good result. Pier 2 done. I'm just going to go around, double check there's no broken textures. I don't want to give this out with and have to re-upload another update because of some bad disconnected textures. I think I've even put a PBR textured wood on these doors, which is better looking than these, which are just a standard material. Going around, I cut down the mesh on the walkway. I don't think it's any different to before, but if you cut the mesh down too much, you start getting errors on the angles. This is on the limit of the mesh optimization. If I optimize it anymore, you'll start getting horrible formations on the low angled curves. So that's the limit. That is the original polygon. It wasn't a very high count polygon. That's not changed at all. I had problems before with flickering glass on the satellite. It comes and goes. So it seems to be better. I've had a close look to see if there's any areas where it's interacting. It's quite thick, this glass. Shouldn't have done it that thick, but that looks better. There's no flickering really that I can see. Just double checking the textures. Nothing's changed here. So this has got a 60 panel skylight I've put back onto the model because I've optimized all the textures, and I can't see any problem with performance. Although if anyone does have problems with performance, that's something I'll probably get rid of, this 60 panel skylight, and simplify it again. But when I tried it before during build 6.x, I was getting terrible FPS when I was facing this, so hopefully that's going to be okay. Finally, I've done a bit of work to the Hilton roof. I think it's the Hilton. I don't think it is actually the Hilton Hotel, but it's just an office block. Done quite a bit of PBR. That's not very well mapped, but this is okay. So it's just looking a little bit better. Done a bit to this departure lounge area. I've actually changed all the modelled panels here and using a texture just mapped on to the building, so that's really good for keeping the mesh amount down. This one here is modelled. Yeah, this is modelled. I've done a bit of work to this front section. It's very, very complicated. I've got corrugated normal map. I've changed this top section. It's much more complicated in real life, but I've yet to get around to making multi-panel arrangement. It's looking a bit better at night. it's still a work in progress. There's no photos, nothing. All I can use is Google Earth and some YouTube videos where you've got flights landing, and I have to pause it to get a better view. So that's that area. So I noticed on a few days ago that I was getting a really bad texture interaction with Premiere In, where the black was interfering with another colour, so they're obviously overlapping. But now what I've done is moved. This is still all modelled, but now I've actually, you can just about see there, I've moved the black panels back because they were actually interfacing with these, with all the other panels. For some reason I haven't arranged them properly, so now I've just moved them back and it's stopped the horrible flickering. There might be some areas still. This side also, this side didn't have a problem, so I've still got to do some stuff on this. I don't know, you can see there, this still needs a little bit of correction where there's an overlap of the two different colours, two different textures. So that's a small thing I need to correct. And I need to do a bit more detail. I think this is a restaurant area with glass panels, so that's another thing I'm going to want to do. North Terminal, a bit more detail on the roof. Done texture, it looks like corrugated on the top. It's hard to tell with Google Earth. Done a bit more PBR texturing. So this is not textured yet. I've yet to do that. But it is this is actually modelled grid, but there's a way of putting a texture on there. That's going to take away a lot of the mesh, which would make it more efficient. So that's just another thing to do. The roofs are looking okay, a bit more PBR texture. Basically the whole lot I've done. And also these the North Terminal gate areas, nice bit of that's a nice material, that is. I really like that one. And it always looks better on a smaller object because of the resolution. 2K by 2K textures. I don't really do the 4K because it just builds the package. It gigabytes and gigabytes if I start using 4K textures. So it's looking okay. Starting to put a few barriers along here. So it's going to take a long time to do the whole airport, but each one of these models is one model asset, but I just copy them all across the airport. So I've got one model of a chock loaded into the model lib, and then one of these single posts, then a fork type shape, and I arranged them. And these GPUs are just one model, but because it's one model you can just multiply the asset, so it should be more efficient. Same as these are just one model in the model lib. I think that's the best way to do it. I could have created an arrangement of models like this and put it as one model, but I can't be bothered. So I've got up to 52. There's a long way to go. So this brickwork was giving me a problem. This is not really the right colour, but at least it's not giving me any problem. Thankfully, it definitely was a texture problem. It should be a darker brick colour, but it's working, so that's good. I had problems before with this brickwork, I don't know why. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. So that's going to be red for the moment until I find a decent looking dark brown, black brickwork. I can't find it. I've tried to change the colorations, but I don't know how to do it. All the taxiway markings are done. So the last thing to have a look at, oh no, actually another thing is the ATC tower. So this is the corrugated normal. So you don't get any aliasing flickering. And it took away about 60% of the file size of the tower. So whereas before in previous versions you'd get horrible aliasing flickering from a distance, you shouldn't get anything much now. That's nothing. So that's a really good result. Less mesh. It's a little bit thin, the mesh there, it's like one skin. The tower I've done a bit of interior. That's okay. A bit of woodwork and a carpeting and a carpet for the roof. So, and the radar is PBR textured, and the roof, bit of roof material. So it's looking pretty good. So heading off to the last area. Been working on this for the last few days. I've managed to fix a few problems I had. That seems a bit of a weird texture there, right? It's just because it's in the shadow. I need to make the bricks smaller, but let's see if I've fixed all these little problems I had earlier on today. Close the gap in the building, so that's fixed. I've got some trim there now. That's fixed. This area is completely loaded with PBR textures. Pretty much everything. So if anything's going to go wrong with the textures, this is the area. But so far so good. Managed to get a tree in a pot. That's a SDK asset, the tree. But I removed it from the ground, snapped to ground, and luckily it positioned exactly right. That's a little plant pot I made. Simple, very simple mesh. nothing to it. So I've managed to move the move this sidewall that was given a problem before, moved it further left to cover the bridge. I've managed to get the level correct for to walk over. I've actually resized the lift, so that's looking a bit better now. It's turned out really good. That's the only problem, is the bridges, because they're two separate models. I could have moved the whole bridge closer to this pier, but if I do that, the escalators are going to bang up against the metalwork. So what I'll probably do later is just put a platform, put something here to cover this gap, or maybe readjust the escalators. So I'm jumping up the escalator. This isn't completed yet. Let's see if I've managed to get the top area. Still a little bit high, I think. Yeah, it needs readjusting. But I've managed to remove the glass, make it less thick. All this glass needs to be reduced in thickness. Now that I've learned Blender, I'll be able to do that eventually. But it's a big job. It's absolutely must be 100 to 200 or 300 glass panels that need thinning down. I did a bit, corrected it at the end, or I deleted the glass panels. If this was all one model, the bridge and the pier, then I could get this correct exactly. But I've got to keep going back and forwards in the SDK because it still needs a lot of adjustment. And the SDK, when you load the SDK, the models are not positioned at the same height as it is when you've packaged it. There's a few little problems there, interaction. Need to sort that mesh out. But so far it's gone quite good. So I've got the chairs lined up correctly now. All this area is okay. I'm just going to check the texture on the brick down here. That's looking okay. I think this is 7.5 done, pretty much. So I'll be posting it up at midnight in about 1 minute. And let us know if there's any problems. But the development will continue. That's it for now. Is that an old one? No, that's a new one. Definitely looks better. So that's it. Signing off.